Hello world, it's Sammy. Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to install the GitHub CLI tool. Now the GitHub CLI tool is a tool I was able to build that would enable me interact with GitHub without actually needing me to always come to the GitHub GUI to do my actions. Okay, now, I got the inspiration because I'm always working on my terminal to do action to work on repositories. That is either I want to create a new repository, I'll have to come into get the GUI and then create the repository, then go to my terminal and then clone it. I really don't do not like I wanted a way I could basically do all that from my terminal with also forking a repository. Like if I want to actually see the list of repositories I have and stuff like that, I actually wanted a tool that could allow me do it from my terminal. Now I then realized that there's a tool actually existing, which is the GitHub CLI. And yeah, I then told myself that hey, you could actually build a CLI tool that does exactly the same thing without you actually needing to install the GitHub CLI tool. So as such, I came up with what the GitHub CLI. Okay, so quickly I'm going to be showing you how to install it. So first things first, you go to the pre-installation process, which is click creating your token. So you just have to click there, open this in a new tab. All right, now I'm going to click on generate new token classic. Okay, now you just have to give it any name you want to give it. Okay, you could actually say github token new. All right, then set your expiration day for it. You can actually decide to set it as no expiration or as the case may be. Okay, I'm still going to show you. Let's assume you actually set 7 days for it. I'm still going to show you a place where this token is actually being stored during the installation. So you could, in the event that your token gets expired or you are getting authentication error, you could actually go and then check your token without needing to uninstall and reinstall again. So now this is the most important aspect of about it, the permissions for this repository. Now you have to click on this button here, which is the repo creation, and also this button here, which is what the delete repository permissions for this particular token to enable the GitHub CLI to able to actually delete a repository and also create repository remotely for you. All right, so now, with that said, I also like to point out the fact that you can fork any repository using the GitOps tool. However, you can only delete a repository that belongs to a user, not an organization. This is what I mean. Now, right now, Sammy Kings is a GitHub user. As well as any other person. Now you could fork my repository using GitHub. You can also delete the forked repository because I am a GitHub user. However, if you fork a repository, let's say from Facebook or let's say from Uber, right? If you fork their repository, it's actually going to work correctly. It's actually going to fork the repository successfully. However, you can't delete that repository because it belongs to it belongs to an organization rather, and it's due to this permission set here. So you actually have to go into the GitHub GUI to actually delete the forked repository. So with that said, okay, so I'm just going to click on generate a new token. Okay, now I'm going to click on copy and then I'm going to paste it here. All right, then I'm going to come back in here. Now you see that is done. Okay, so the next step is the installation process, which is actually you cloning this particular repo. So this is a docker. Let me start up my docker, one of my docker containers. Okay, I have it installed on this. Yeah, so let me use the Ubuntu 18.04. Okay, All right, so I mean, all right, now before you actually go into git clone this particular repository, first of all, check if you have git installed on this particular machine. But you can see right here now, see, I don't have the github tool installed here currently. I don't have it. Okay, I don't have it installed. So first things first, check if you have git, if you have git installed. So you could do that by doing git version, and you can see I have git installed. Okay, so because I have git installed, now this part I can just come here, copy, and then paste it, and then clone. Okay, now that I've cloned it, just going to seed into it, and these are the files that comes with it. Now you could actually look into the requirement, and you can see it's only the only requirement you have for the githubs to work is the request module. Okay, also because the githubs tool is actually built with Python, definitely you need to have Python installed. However, it's been incorporated already in the installation scripts. Yeah, it's been incorporated already in the installation script, meaning when you run the installation, when you run this, which we are going to be running, it's actually going to run it's actually going to install Python 3 and also pip before it then starts to pip install the requirements.txt, as they are they are the dependencies before it moves to start installing the binaries. Okay, so I'm just going to be doing that, but before I do that, you can see right here, this is my Python version. I have Python 3.6.9. However, on my workstation here, I have Python 3.10. Okay, so I'm going to exit that. So I'm just going to run the installation script now. Before you do this, please make sure that you have your token already on your buffer, because on your clipboard now, because during the installation is actually going to ask you to impute your token. Okay, so I'm going to run this. See, it's installing the dependencies. See, you can see Python 3 is already installed. You can see Python 3 pip is already installed. Okay, now you can see it's now installed. It's now installed the packages from my requirement.txt there. Now you can see installed collected packages. You see it has successfully installed pip. So it has successfully installed request. Now the request version here you have is 2.2.27. Now it's asking me for my token. So because I already have my token copied from here, remember I already have it copied here, I have to still do it again. So I'll click on paste, and like so, it's done. All right, so this is it. Now if you do githubs, you see this is it. You see it's actually you can see it's actually working perfectly. So now let's give it some juice. Let's take it for a ride. You can see githubs, this is it, the sub command or your options. Now these are the sub commands, while these are the options. Okay, so the H option, which shows this help message, now the option just shows the version. Okay, now let's look at the create and see. Now you can see the help shows the help message, The D option, you use it to insert description for the repository. The N option here to give it the name of the repository. Now please note that the N option here is required, is mandatory. However, D is actually optional, because basically you actually need to give your repository a name for it to be saved, because you know that the name of the repository is actually being added to the name of the repository actually makes up the URL. Okay, so let's create a test repository. So currently here now. Okay, so currently here, these are my repositories I have. And here you could kindly give me a follow on GitHub. I would really appreciate that. As you can see, these are the repositories I have here right now. So I'm going to try to create one using the gitops tool. Okay, so gitops, now the create option, now a name for the repository. So let's call this test repo 1. Now this is optional, but you could actually give it a description. Now because this is a string, if you're actually going to be using one line description like this now for your repository, you could decide not to wrap it in a string. But if you are going to be using a sentence, this is like, this is me, wrap it in a string, wrap it in this quotes here. So let's just call this test description for repository. Okay, now you're making the request. So you can see this particular repository has been created successfully, and this is the URL. Now if I refresh, you can see what I have here is test repo 1 and test description for the repository. Okay, so now let's see if I'm able to actually delete this particular repository. So gitops delete, then you could actually use the H option to see which option are available. So U for the user, so user is Sammy Kings. R, name of the repo, which is test repo 1. All right, so you can see successfully deleted repo for user Sammy Kings. Now if I refresh this now again, you see test repo 1 is no longer there. All right, so we've tested out, so we've been able to test the create, the delete. Now let's try and fetch a repository. So again, you do fetch to see. Now yes, so as at now there's no options added to the fetch option, so you just have to just do git and fetch, that's all, and it's just going to fetch all your repositories. So git fetch, oh sorry, this is gitops fetch, and yeah, so as you can see, these are all my repositories. Now github is actually going to fetch all repository that is affiliated to the user. So both the ones that you own, the ones that you are a collaborator in, is just going to return that. Like now, as you can see, this is the repo URL I'm making, because this is my repository. Now this repository, I am actually a collaborator to it, so but then it's actually listed because I am still part of it. Okay, so now let's try and fork a repository. So let's just grab any random repository. So let me just search for, okay, I think I can, yeah, I think I could use this to test. So I'm going to copy this. Okay, so gitops fork, I can say owner and then the repository. So the owner here is this guy called Tululokwe. Now the repository is simple shell. Now you can see the repository here is simple shell. So and then now you can see 404 could not perform action. Status code is 404, meaning we know that 404 means resource not found. So therefore means that I actually didn't put this very well. So I'm going to come in here. Yeah, missed an L. Okay. So as you can see, successfully forked repo simple share. Now this is the URL. Now if I go to my repositories now and then I refresh, this, you can see now looking at for it's part of my forks right now. Yeah, you can see it. So this is it. Simple shell forks from it. You can see this is it here. Now if I want to delete this now, just have to now change this to simple shell. Yep. And you can see repo successfully deleted for user. Okay, now if I refresh this now and then look for any repository called simple shell, you see it's no longer there again. All right, thank you very much. I hope you all have a wonderful time. Thank you. And yeah, if you have any issues with the githubs, you could actually send it using the issues tab there, and then I'll quickly resolve it. All right, thank you guys. Do have a wonderful day.